The story starts with our bro, Jay, punishing a girl with cold focus, and the girl shouted that Jay seemed mad. Jay felt the anger inside burn hotter, and he punished her again with that mix of rage and jealousy. The impact pulled him out of his own temper, and he froze. Jay wondered if he went too far and if his reaction crossed a line. A few days earlier, he never expected their story to twist into this path. Everything felt sudden and completely out of place. A few days earlier, Jay sat in a quiet classroom. Jay Goldie was 21 and an engineering student. He worked on an assignment with slow, steady focus. His friend appeared and asked if he finished the work yet. Jay said he was almost done and kept typing. The friend asked Jay to join him for drinks that night. Jay said he had no cash. The friend insisted and said he would pay. Jay felt suspicious because the sudden kindness felt strange. The friend explained that a few girls would join them and they asked to meet Jay. Jay thought about free drinks and felt tempted. The friend reminded him that it had been a while since he separated from his ex. Jay thought that the break was final and that there was nothing left to fix. Jay agreed to go. His friend cheered while Jay drifted into his own thoughts. He looked back at past connections that never lasted long. His early connection in high school lasted only 23 days. It started with simple interest, but nothing deeper formed as time passed. Another secret connection during college orientation lasted 2 weeks. Jay tried to hide his real feelings, but the girls always saw through him. Each one left once they realized the truth he kept inside. Later that night, they drank together. Jay remembered the old days when long nights felt exciting. Now the noise around him felt dull. Nothing around him felt fun. Jay sat in silence and thought about how he always lost interest once a new connection started. A girl leaned closer to him, and he still felt nothing. He realized again that the feeling other people talked about never showed up for him. Jay looked at the profile of his ex, Mila, on his phone. She still used a simple picture for years, and she never posted anything. His friend caught him staring at the screen again. Another girl asked what he was looking at. His friend said that Jay always checked his phone whenever they went out and claimed Jay kept looking at his ex. Jay said it was not that and tried to hide the screen. Jay thought that he would never act this way if the woman on his mind were truly his ex. His phone battery died, and he sighed. Jay stood up from the table and said he was heading home. His friend reacted with surprise because the night had barely started. A girl asked him to stay longer, but Jay said he had work to finish. Rain covered the streets as Jay walked home under an umbrella. His clothes were soaked, and he thought about how drenched he felt. When he reached his apartment, he saw a figure crouched near the door with hands over the face. Jay wondered if it was a person or a ghost. He wondered if it was a lost stranger or someone unstable. The shape looked like a woman, and the sight felt wrong. Jay stepped closer and asked the person to move. The woman looked up, and Jay froze. He whispered Mila in disbelief as a sharp memory flashed across his mind. She greeted him as if no time had passed. She was 25 now and looked older but still familiar. Jay asked how she knew where he lived, and Mila said his father told her. Oh. Jay felt shaken because she had never called him for years. He wondered why she searched for his address after such a long time. He wondered why she stood at his door in the rain without notice. Mila asked if she could stay with him for a few days, and her voice sounded tired. Jay felt stunned because his first love stood in front of him after 8 long years with no contact. Later, Mila rested inside the apartment and took a shower, while Jay wondered how his life twisted into this strange moment. Mila called out and asked for a towel, so Jay handed one to her. She thanked him and asked to borrow a change of clothes. Jay gave her a simple outfit, and she accepted it with a small smile. Jay opened the fridge and thought about needing a drink. He thought about how Mila took a shower in his place and now wore his clothes. Mila stepped out with damp hair and said his shampoo smelled nice, while thanking him again. Jay drank from a can and studied her. He thought she looked cute, and he felt like he was staring at someone wearing her partner's clothes. Mila noticed the drink and asked if he was drinking. Jay answered that he was because he did not think he could deal with this night sober. Mila asked if she could join him. Jay agreed and gave her a drink. Mila opened it and spilled some on the table. Jay quickly cleaned the spill and asked if she was fine. Mila said she was fine and apologized because she never drank before. She raised her can and said cheers. She said it had been a long time. Jay said it had been about 10 years since they moved away from each other when they were kids. Mila said time moved fast and she could not believe 10 years passed. She said the last time she saw him, he was just a little kid, and now he looked grown. Jay said he was 21 now, and he asked again about how she got his address since she never called him once. Mila explained her past in a quiet tone. Said she dropped out of high school and stayed inside her house for 10 years. She felt embarrassed about the way she lived, so she never had the courage to call him. Jay thought about her words and felt shocked that she dropped out. Mila continued and said Jay's father called her from time to time. He gave her advice during hard moments and helped her feel less alone. She said she ran away from home and had nowhere to go. His father told her he could not let her stay with him because he remarried. He told her to try going to Jay's place instead. Jay felt his head spin because his father was not someone who should give advice. This was the man with 3 marriages. Jay thought Mila had been through a lot, and he noticed the gloom in her voice. Mila smiled faintly and said everything worked out in the end. She said she was happy to see him again, and that she knew her sudden arrival was shocking. She said she would find a part-time job and leave after she saved enough for a small place. Jay told her to relax and make herself at home. They spent the next hours talking like they were trying to fill the empty space of 10 missing years. They spoke about old memories and moments they shared long ago. Jay learned that during the 1 year they spent together, he was not the only one who treasured that time. After a while, Jay saw she was very drunk and told her to sleep on the bed. Mila nodded and walked toward the room. Jay looked at the clock and thought about how late it was. He checked his phone and saw missed messages from his father and from Mila earlier. He thought that he did not notice them because his phone died. Jay walked to the room and asked Mila if she was fine. Mila mumbled that he should also sleep soon. Jay said he would sleep on the floor. Mila refused and said she could not let him sleep on the floor in his own home. She said she would take the floor instead. Jay told her no and said she was his guest. He said she could sleep on the bed. But later they decided to sleep together. Jay woke up the next morning and felt heavy exhaustion in his body. He thought that morning had already arrived and he felt drained. He heard Mila sleep through the alarm and he thought she slept like a baby. Jay sighed and thought that he did not want to go to class today. He forced himself up and went anyway. Class ended after a long blur of time. Jay thought he dozed off for the whole lecture. He yawned as he walked out and said he might go sleep again because he felt completely worn out. His friend approached and said he saw Jay sleep through class and asked him to grab lunch. Jay asked to copy his notes later. The friend agreed only if Jay paid for lunch. Jay ended up paying nothing because the friend bought it in the end. During lunch, the friend said Jay left early last night and asked why he looked so tired. Jay said he had something come up. The friend said one girl left after Jay left, so he followed her out. Jay asked what happened to Sam. The friend explained that Sam hit it off with a girl. He said that might be why Sam skipped class. Jay said Sam finally found someone. The friend laughed and said Sam needed that because he was a handful. He stared at Jay and said, something special must have happened last night. Jay brushed it off, but thought the guy was too sharp. Jay checked his phone and saw a long message from Mila. She said she did not see him when she woke up, so she texted him. She said she passed out and did not know he left. She wrote that a place she applied to called her in for an interview. She said she would text him when she finished. She thanked him for letting her stay and said she rambled while drunk. She hoped he had a good day. Jay replied with a small message that wished her luck. Jay thought that Mila did not seem aware of what happened last night. His friend leaned in and said the message was from a girl. His friend said Jay made a strange face and started laughing. Jay told him to shut up and eat. Jay wondered if his reaction was that obvious. He thought maybe it was his face. In the middle of his usual dull routine, he felt a spark just from talking with Mila. That felt enough to make him smile. Later that night, Mila worked at a restaurant on her first day. A customer asked for a table, and Mila greeted him with a shaky voice. Another worker told her to set a table, and Mila rushed over with confusion. She apologized when she made a mistake. A customer snapped at her, and the worker apologized for her. Mila broke dishes twice and struggled with the register and made several more mistakes. She looked exhausted. The worker finally told her it was time to clean. Mila nodded. He asked her to follow him so he could show her the tasks. He said it was a chaotic first day, and he apologized for making her work on the same day as her interview. Mila said it was fine because she needed the job. She apologized for all the mistakes. The worker admitted he worried because she had no experience. He asked if she could keep working, and Mila said yes with relief. He smiled and said they would hold a team dinner to welcome the new worker. Mila agreed. She thought she should tell Jay that she might come home late. Mila texted Jay and said she got hired at the barbecue place she interviewed for. She said she just finished her shift. Another message came in as she said the boss planned to buy food for the team. She said she would head home after. She sent another message that said she might be late, so Jay could go to bed first. Jay asked where the place was. Mila sent her location. Jay thought the restaurant was close and told her to stay safe and not drink too much. Mila replied with a short message of agreement. Jay leaned back and thought about how fast she found a job. He thought she would earn enough for a deposit very soon. He felt tired and drifted to sleep while waiting. Sometime later, Jay woke up in the dark room and felt stiff. He thought he must have dozed off while waiting. He checked the time and froze. It was now past 1:30. Mila was not home. He saw the missed calls from her and felt a spike in his chest. He tried calling her back, but the phone said the person was unavailable. Jay grabbed his jacket and thought he should go pick her up. He remembered the messages where she sounded very drunk. He stepped outside with tense steps and felt dread rise in his mind. He thought something might have gone wrong. Meanwhile, Mila sat at a table with her coworkers and her head hung low. She was drunk and barely conscious. The men around her talked to each other as they planned to take her somewhere after the dinner. Mila did not respond, and her body swayed with each movement. Jay ran through the streets with a rising storm inside his chest. Each unanswered call added more pressure. The last message sounded drunk enough to stir every worst thought. Anxiety built as he imagined her sitting with strangers. Fear tightened as he imagined her losing control. The idea that something bad might have already happened pushed him to move faster. The restaurant came into view. A worker stood near the entrance while guiding Mila toward the door. Her steps wobbled and her eyes barely stayed open. Jay reached them and asked if she was okay. Mila mumbled a tired answer. Jay took hold of her before she slipped again. The worker asked if Jay was her partner. Jay said he was not, but he would take care of her. The worker nodded with disappointment and wished them a safe walk home. The apartment door closed behind them, and Mila collapsed onto the bed without balance. Jay stood over her with tension still burning in his mind. He said it was dangerous to get drunk around strangers. Mila lifted her head slightly and asked why danger mattered. The question struck him like a spark in dry grass. The memory of the worker holding her tight flashed in his mind. The thought of her walking out of the restaurant with no control fueled the frustration that had been building since he ran across the city. He felt angry and scared at the same time. He wondered if she was simply unaware or just reckless. Suddenly, he started punishing her, which transitioned to a lively cardio session. Morning light filled the room as Jay woke up. Mila sat at the desk tapping on the computer. Jay greeted her and said she woke up early. Mila nodded fast and asked if he slept well. She asked if he felt tired after the long night. Jay sat up and said he did not want to go to school today. Mila told him he still had to go. Jay asked if she planned to go to work. Mila hesitated. She said she did not think she could. Jay asked why not. Mila lowered her head and said she could not show up in her current state. She said she would need to look for another job. She said he looked strangely happy about that. Jay told her to take her time with the search. He got ready for class and walked out for the day. In the afternoon, he stopped at a small shop. A cake box rested in his hand as he thought about Mila. He wondered if she would like it. He thought about the night before and felt a sting of regret. He knew he raised his voice too strongly and acted harsher than he meant. Jay stood outside the apartment door and hoped Mila did not disappear while he was gone. He stepped inside and called out that he was home. He said he bought cake and asked if she wanted some. Mila answered from the desk and said cake sounded great. Jay noticed her laptop on the table. She tapped the keys with focus. He remembered she used the computer that morning too and wondered what she was working on. Mila asked if he remembered that she liked cake. Jay said he did and felt relieved that she still enjoyed the same things. She said sweets were nice, but cake always felt special. Jay watched her quietly for a moment. He wondered again about what she was doing on the computer. Mala took a bite of the cake and turned toward him. She said there was something she wanted to ask. She took a breath and asked if he could show her his gaming gear, which later turned into an intense cardio session. The next morning, the hallway buzzed with tired voices. Students dragged their feet after a long lecture. Complaints filled the space as they talked about endless assignments and a professor who acted like his class was the only one that mattered. Jay walked with a slow yawn while his friends stared at him. The friend said Jay was dozing off again and asked what he did last night. Jay kept walking while another yawn slipped out. The friend said he looked drained and said it seemed like life had been pulled out of him. The group whispered that something felt different about Jay lately. They joked that he acted like he suddenly had a partner. Jay told them he could not eat lunch today because his sister was coming. The group froze with surprise. They asked when he even had a sister. A moment later, Mila appeared at the edge of the courtyard and Jay stepped forward to greet her. The group watched from behind with wide eyes. One of them whispered that she must have gotten lost. Another said Jay never mentioned a sister. Another said she looked too good to be related to him. Their voices rose as they said he must be lying and that she was clearly not a sister. Mila walked beside Jay and asked if he could leave his friends so suddenly. She said she did not even get to greet them. Jay said not to worry because they would eat without him. Mila looked relieved and said she was glad to hear that. Her eyes wandered over the campus, and she said the place looked interesting. She said she had never stepped onto a college campus before. Jay asked if she meant it. Mila nodded and said the place looked much bigger than any high school. She said the lack of uniforms felt strange. She admitted she had always wondered how a college would look if she never dropped out. She wondered if her life would have led her here. Jay said they might have even ended up at the same school. He said she had been a good student. Mila looked down and said she liked hearing that. She said stepping outside was always hard, but she felt safe next to him. She said she normally avoided clothes like the ones she wore today because she was scared of stairs. She said she put effort into her outfit because she came to meet him. She asked what he thought. Jay felt his heart jump as he looked at her. His mind echoed with a single thought about how cute she looked. Mila smiled and said she wanted him to show her the places he usually visited. Jay asked if she wanted a small tour, and she nodded with energy. They walked through the campus and eventually reached the library. The quiet air inside felt heavy. Mila looked around and whispered that someone might walk in while they were there. Jay placed his books down and they settled into silent study with serious focus. Time passed until the sound of footsteps echoed between the shelves. A girl with long pink hair stopped in front of Jay's table. Her eyes widened as she spotted him sitting alone. She stepped closer and asked what he was doing there by himself. Her name was Sylvia Valentine, and she had once gone out with Jay for a short time during his first year in college. They stayed friendly after the break, but never close enough to go out of their way to talk. Jay lifted his head when she spoke. Mila quickly slipped under the table without a sound. Sylvia said she saw him earlier with someone she did not recognize. She asked if that person was someone important to him. Jay froze as the thought rushed through his mind. He wondered what he should call Mila. He wondered if it was fine to call her something more in front of Sylvia. Sylvia looked uneasy. She said she knew it felt strange to bring this up after how they ended. She said neither of them saw anyone else after the break. Mila listened under the table as the words sank in. Sylvia said she thought both of them had stayed in the same place since that time. She said the problems between them were simple disagreements and nothing deeper. She said seeing him with another person made her feel anxious. She said that if he was not seeing anyone, then she wanted to try again. Jay let out a slow breath and asked if that was everything. He apologized and said he had already moved on. He said he did not feel much even when they dated. He said he was now seeing the person Sylvia spotted earlier. He asked her to keep distance from him. He said he did not want the conversation to continue and asked her to leave. Her eyes reddened as she stepped back. She walked out of the aisle with a shaky breath. Jay looked under the table and asked why Mila hid like that. Mila climbed out and said the conversation felt like it would never end. She said her knees hurt. She said she figured Sylvia was someone from his past. She said it looked sad that Sylvia asked to try again because she saw him with someone else. Jay sighed. He said her reason was unbelievable. He said that move deserved a firm warning. He pointed to the books and told her to get back to studying. The room returned to silence as both focused on their work again. Later in the afternoon, they walked across campus side by side. Mila talked about the library and how many people were studying. She said she liked the drink she had earlier. She said the whole day felt fun and calming. Jay walked beside her with a quiet thought in his mind. He wondered if it would be fine to hold her hand. He reached out and she took his hand without hesitation. The moment felt simple and warm. Jay asked if she wanted to come again the next day and eat lunch together. Mila said she might. She said she could bring her laptop and do some work while she stayed on campus. They crossed the walkway as the sun lowered. A car slowed down nearby and stopped beside them. The door opened and a woman stepped out with a stiff look on her face. Her name was Michelle, and she stared at Mila with clear shock. Michelle looked between them with disbelief. She said she first heard Mila was writing stories she should not write. She said she thought that was the reason she left home. She looked at both of them again and her voice tightened. She feared Mila ran away only to create more chaos and demanded to know why they were together like this. Jay stood frozen for a moment as Michelle's words echoed through the air. Mila pulled back with wide eyes and suddenly ran. Her steps carried her across the sidewalk and into the nearby park. Jay rushed after her and followed the faint sound of her breathing until he finally spotted her near a bench. He stepped closer and told her he looked everywhere. He noticed the redness around her eyes and asked if she cried. He said he had no idea why Michelle said those things. Mila took a shaky breath and lowered her head. She said it was because she wrote cardio stories. She said that after leaving high school, she stayed in her room and wrote stories for fun, and they ended up selling well. She said her mom asked where the money came from and found out. She said the whole situation exploded after that. Mila looked at the ground and said she did not come to him for material. She said she wrote a little, but she could delete it if he wanted. She unlocked her phone and showed him the screen. Jay stared at the text. He realized this was the moment she wrote about when they first met again. He remembered how she worked on the computer that morning. The puzzle came together in his mind. He understood why she acted so nervous at times. He understood how she knew many things, yet missed other things completely. Jay asked if she was awake that night. Mila said she woke up after hearing him move. She thought she stayed quiet enough not to get noticed. Jay scrolled through the screen and saw countless comments. He realized she earned money from her work. He nodded slowly and said he understood why Michelle reacted the way she did. Mila looked away and asked if people would think she was strange. Jay studied her for a moment and thought about the many stories on her phone. He understood how someone could get the wrong idea. Jay told her he thought it was incredible. Mila blinked fast and asked if he meant it. She said she even wrote about the moments they shared. Jay said the story was clearly about him. Mila covered her face and begged him not to read it in front of her. Jay smiled slightly and said it was interesting to see in written form. She asked if he felt upset. Jay said some people might not like it, but he did not feel bothered. He said he wanted to support her. Mila stepped forward and hugged him with trembling hands. He felt the tension in her arms melt as she whispered her thanks. Jay felt something settle inside his chest. He finally felt like he saw the real Mila. As their hands linked again, the world felt lighter. He thought about how close she felt now. He wanted to learn everything she hid away. He wanted her to tell him every piece of herself. He felt a steady truth rise in his mind. He truly liked her and believed they could face anything together. A memory formed in his thoughts. Mila sat alone on a bench on the day she left home. She thought about how she walked out without a second thought. She looked at the bright city around her and realized she had nowhere to go. She thought about how everyone else lived their lives while she stayed inside for years. She sent Jay a message. She wondered if he lived alone now. In her mind, she thanked him for saying he liked her. She thought he was the reason she was able to step into the world outside. 4 years passed in what felt like a steady blur. Graduation day arrived with bright air and loud voices across the campus. Mila stepped forward with flowers in her hands and congratulated Jay on his graduation. Jay thanked her with a tired laugh. He thought about how much time had passed since they started dating. Jay's friends spotted them and called out for a group picture. They asked the two to join them and said everyone should go out for drinks after. Jay waved them off and said they could drink without him. A familiar voice came from behind. Jay's father walked up and offered his congratulations. Jay groaned and said he already told him he did not need to come. His father said he wanted to see where all his tuition money went and hoped Jay had been doing well. Mila stepped forward and thanked him for helping them move into the new place. The father said he felt unsettled knowing they lived in a tiny apartment before and felt happy they had space now. Mila bowed her head and said she could not thank him enough. Jay remembered the day he told his father about their relationship. His father did not seem shocked. Jay wondered if the man already sensed how deep that old crush had been. Mila and Michelle had cleared their misunderstanding long ago, but Michelle still struggled to accept the idea of Mila dating someone who had once been family. Even so, they met from time to time. Jay knew only time would settle the rest. His father clapped his hands and said, eating noodles after graduation was a tradition. He said he already made reservations at a good restaurant. Jay rolled his eyes and said he should buy something more expensive. His father said he was broke after paying tuition and buying them a new house. Jay laughed and said they should get steak anyway. They ate together and the atmosphere stayed warm. Jay thanked his father for the meal. His father congratulated him again and told him to rest. Later, the two returned home with slow steps. Mila dropped onto the bed and said she ate too much. Jay pointed at her outfit and warned her not to fall on the bed with dirty clothes. Mila groaned and said she was too tired to move after wearing heels all day. Jay asked if she wanted a foot massage to help with the pain. Mila stretched her legs out with a long sigh. Jay tried to lighten the mood and suggested they do a simple cardio session to shake off the heavy feeling from all the food. Spring returned again, and the seasons moved quietly. Jay started his first job and settled into a steady routine. Mila wrote her stories full-time and treated every day like a new deadline. Her life looked different from the silent and troubled days she once lived. Now she felt stable and proud as she earned money through her writing. Watching that change made Jay feel warm. By the end of the season, something unexpected arrived in their lives. Serendipity led them into a new chapter. Jay wondered if they would make good parents. Some people might point fingers at their relationship, but that no longer mattered. A child who carried Mila's smile sounded like a blessing. Later, Mila visited her mother and showed her the baby. Mila said the child was adorable. Michelle stared at the small face and said it felt like a baby gave birth to a child. Mila reminded her that she was 30 now and no longer a child. Michelle crossed her arms and said, Mila could not even take care of herself most days. She said she wanted a long talk with her son-in-law. She asked how they had a child before a proper wedding. Mila said they were married on paper and did not have many people to invite. She said many couples skip big weddings these days. She said she was surprised Michelle called Jay her son-in-law instead of just Jay. Michelle said he was the father after all. Mila said the surprise came from how against the idea Michelle once was. Michelle sighed and said she expected the two to break up long ago. She said they now had a certificate and a child together. She said a wedding could happen once the baby grew older. She said both sets of parents needed to collect back the money they invested in the two. Mila hesitated, but Michelle assured her. She said she dreamed of raising Mila without troubles and wanted her to be happy. She said she wanted a grand wedding and nothing less. She told Mila not to worry because her happiness came first. Mila nodded softly and said she would follow her mother's wish. Time passed and the wedding took place. They stood together with bright smiles while the cameras flashed. A picture of the moment hung on the wall of their new home. Seasons drifted again and the small child became a lively kid with a quick voice. One morning, he ran across the living room and asked his father if he had seen his book bag. Mila dressed their younger daughter and asked if he checked the closet. He said he had, and said it was not there. Mila wondered out loud where it could have gone. Jay stepped into the hallway with a gentle smile. He gave the bag to their son, and they all went to school for the first day. Their days moved with steady joy as they built a life together.